Part of algebra requires an understanding of many core algebraic topics, such as linear equations, systems of equations, and functions. Problems of this type will vary greatly in appearance, so I'll do my best to cover a plentiful range in the video, but there will be more practice in the think tank. As always, if something doesn't make perfect sense, just play it again. We'll begin this training with linear equations. You might be given a function in the form of y equals mx plus b, but most likely you'll have a word problem that requires you to translate the information into an expression. For instance, in 2010, City D had 800 people. Starting in 2011, the city's population grew by 50 people every year. How many people will this city have in 2025? Okay, the first step here is to define the variables. Ultimately, we want to calculate the population of people in 2025. Remember, P always represents population, meaning that it varies each year. Our goal is to find P for the year 2025, which is 15 years after 2010. For this problem, we'll just call it P. The problem states that City D began with 800 people. This is a constant. It isn't affected by anything, so it stands alone. Then, the city grew by 50 people every year. So the population of the city is 800 plus 50x, where x stands for number of years since 2010. Again, 2025 is 15 years after 2010, so we need to plug in 15 for x. And we get population of City D 15 years after 2010, or in 2025, is 1,550 people. Keep in mind, many different questions can be asked about the same scenario. Same problem, but now they're asking in how many years after 2010 could we expect City D to have at least 2,111 people. It also asks us to round our answer to a whole number. If the question is stated like this, then you need to create an inequality. See the word at least? Almost any time you see at least, greater than, less than, or at most, you'll need an inequality. At least means greater than or equal to. Let x be the number of years since 2010. Then the expression 800 plus 50x gives the number of people in City D since 2010. So, when will there be at least 2,111 people? We can represent this using an inequality. 800 plus 50x is greater than or equal to 2,111. Solve for x. X is greater than or equal to 26.22. Done? No. Remember, the problem asked us for a whole number of years. This means we need to round to an integer. So, City D must wait 27 years before reaching at least 2,111 people. Be careful. If you round down to 26 years, then you'll have less than 2,111 people. And remember, we want at least that many. And then you're done. Oh, right. But what if we're given more than one linear equation? Many heart of algebra problems involve systems of linear equations. You may need to define multiple variables or create multiple equations to represent a scenario. For systems of equations, use either elimination or substitution. One way may be faster than the other depending on the scenario, but please practice both. Go into the math test with as much flexibility as possible. Let's try another one.
Yesterday, a grocery store sold a total of 290 pounds of apples and bananas. Yummy. Apples are 50 cents per pound, bananas are 80 cents per pound. If the store made $163, then how many pounds of bananas were sold?
We need to quickly recognize that problems like this involve multiple equations. This is one of our equations. Also, we have the price of each and the total dollars made. 50 cents per pound of apples plus 80 cents per pound of bananas equals $163. We have two distinct linear equations that make a system of equations. Let's solve by substitution. We can rearrange our first equation to a equals 290 minus b. Then we can plug this value of a into the second equation, distribute the terms, combine like terms, and solve for b. Keep in mind, if you're dealing with a multiple choice question, then the answer choices can also help you. If for some reason you forget how to do something, or maybe you don't have enough time, you can plug in some answer choices. This problem asked about pounds of bananas, so 60 would have been one of the answer choices. You could have plugged in 60 for bananas and 230 for apples and deduced that those are correct. Plugging in answers is usually easier if you have a calculator, unless you're a wizard at mental math. On the test, you'll sometimes be allowed to use a calculator. Other times, you won't. However, just because you can use a calculator doesn't mean you should. They're not only testing your problem-solving ability, they're also testing your ability to choose whether or not you need the calculator. Check out this problem. What's the solution? What does x equal? Sure, you could definitely use a calculator, distribute the terms, combine like terms, solve for x, but you don't have to. Look closely. We have 13 times a quantity equals 9 times the same quantity. The only way this is possible is if the quantity equals 0. That means that 0.3x has to equal 9, or x equals 30. In this case, it was much faster to notice the trick than to do the written work. Cool. Let's take these linear equations and throw them onto some graphs. On the test, you'll encounter a fair amount of graphs of linear equations or systems of linear equations. Or you may wish to solve a system of linear equations by graphing. With a system of linear equations, there are 3 possibilities. The 2 equations could be parallel. This means they never intersect, and there's no solution to the system. The lines have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. That's scenario A. In scenario B, the 2 lines intersect once. They definitely have different slopes, and the set has a unique solution. In the final scenario, the 2 lines are identical. There's an infinite number of solutions because they're always intersecting. The slope and the y-intercept are the same. Lastly, you may be given graphs and then asked to determine the equation or equations on the graph. The graph of line L is shown in the xy plane to my side. Which of the following is an equation of a line perpendicular to line L? Note that the line passes through points 0, 2 and -1, 0. So the slope is 6. 0 minus 2 divided by -1 minus 0 equals 2. All right, slope is 2. So the answer is, oh, nope, not so fast. The question asks us for an equation of a line perpendicular to line L. Perpendicular lines have a slope equal to the negative reciprocal of our slope. The negative reciprocal of 2 is -1/2. So the answer is A. You're doing great. You should be proud of yourself for making it through all of this material.